Hello everyone, in this video we're going to talk about what? Hello everyone, in this video we're going to talk about what we are going to talk about. As you can see on the title of this video, this is all about my speaking skill. Not I'm going to explain that much about budget deficit. What does I know about it? I'm going to tell you that. Don't accept too much or from this video. I'm here to explain it my own ways, on through ways. There is, as you can see on, there is a slide or in the presentation on your screen. Through that slide I'm going to explain it. There is an oh bro, don't do like that, don't do like that. Why it is doing like that? Is there any bug inside itself or something else? Now it's working correctly. Why the cursor is not moving? Now it's working fine. Yeah, what I'm saying, that there is a topic on your screen and there is a description about that topic. We're going to cover that about that topic. First we're going to read about that, then we are going to description, then there is some effect of budget deficit and all things stuff, type of budget deficit, government response, political consideration, sustainability, international comparison. We're going to the button and there are out 8 questions. We are going to cover that 8 questions. Then after that, get it, what will going to format of this video. Are you excited about that? Are you excited about that? If you want, so keep stay here till the completion of video. I will make sure you will not go bored down in this video. Do you get it what I want to say? mm. I think almost all the people get to know. I think almost all people will remember this tune from which series or movie from. mm. Mm. Good series, quite good series. Just like in a picky plant, it's like that. Okay, what the topic is? Topic is budget deficit. What does it mean by budget deficit? We are going to talk about budget deficit. Budget deficit occur when a government expenditure exceed its revenue in the first fiscal year. In the given fiscal year, it represents the amount by which a government has a borrowed money to meet its spending commitment. Budget deficit are common feature of government finances around the world and can have a significant economic and political implication. What does it mean? What does it mean? So let me read again. Budget deficit occur when a government expenditure exceed a revenue. When I export is less than import. One of the factors is that when expenditure or the taxes from different sources of they have less than taxes, or the can we say revenue from the all sources of medium is less than the expenditure they are spending on different resources and infrastructure. That's one of the case of budget deficit. Exceed revenue fiscal year in a fiscal year. Usually talk about the fiscal year every year. Fiscal year almost start from April. Yeah, budget pass in 1 February every year in a budget. Every year budget passes on 1st February 2020. What is 2020? 2020 can be anything like 2020, 21, 21, 23, whatever. What is fixed, it passes at least in India on 1st of February. It represents the amount of by which our government has to borrow money to meet the spending commitment. Budget deficit are common feature of government finances around the world, can have a significant economic and political implications. Okay, that's you got it what it want to say. Do you got it what I want to say? It is around the world can have a significant economic and political implications. Now back to the some of the key point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are the 7 point have to discuss out here. Causes of budget deficit. What are the different causes of budget deficit? We are going to talk about that. What are different causes of budget deficit? What are the effect of budget deficit when it goes deficit down? What are the different effect of type of budget deficit? What are different type of budget deficit? Government response. What are the government response in order to then political considerations? What are different political considerations? Sustainability. How does it program like budget country able to survive in depth? How they able to come out from the debt in order to survive or make a sustainability over there. International comparisons. Okay, and there are some questions we are going to talk about. Now let's move the first point. What are the causes of budget deficit? Like I already said, like if the export is import more than export, or like they're spending on progress or infrastructure. Like first point is increased government is spending. When a government increasing it is spending on a program, infrastructure, defense, or other areas without matching revenue increasing, it can lead to the budget deficit. Okay, when a government increase it spending on program, infrastructure, defense, or other areas without matching revenue increase, without matching revenue increase, it led to increase, it led to budget deficit. That's one of the tax cut. Reducing taxes can reduce government revenue, potentially leading to budget deficit if spending remains the same. Economic downturn during recession. Oh, it's one of the factor. Or economic downturn, tax revenue may decline and government is spending on unemployment benefit and other social safety net may be increased, contributing to deficit. Unforeseen event, natural disaster, wars, other emergencies can require significant government spending that may not even budget for, causing deficit. Effect of budget deficit: debt accumulation. To cover deficit, government often issue debt in form of bond. Persistent deficit can lead to growing national debt, which give long-term economic consequences. Interest payment. There are the different factors that we have actually the what government effect of the what are the different effect of what budget budget debt accumulation. What are different effect? One of them is we have covered about the causes of budget deficit like tax cut, economic downturn, or unforeseen like natural disaster or anything like that. These are the four main causes of budget deficit. It can be many, but on this page or this slide it's given only four that we have covered. Now let's end up effect of budget deficit. What are the what what effect does it cause in the local level to people, like debt accumulation, interest payment, inflation, and monetary policy? These are some effect of the budget deficit. To cover deficit, government often issue debt in form of bond. Persistent deficit can lead to growing national debt, which can have long-term economic consequences. Interest payment: government must pay interest on the debt they accumulate to cover deficit, diverting fund from other priorities. Inflation and monetary policy: large deficit can put upward pressure on inflation, prompting central bank to raise interest rate to control it. Crowding out: excessive borrowing by the government can reduce the fund available for private investment, potentially slowing economic growth. What are these are the some effect of the what budget deficit? What are the type of budget deficit? Okay, we have got about the effect of the budget deficit. Now we are talking about the budget. Cyclic deficit occur due to the economic downturn, when tax revenue decrease and spending on social safety net increase. These deficits are often temporary and tend to disappear as the economy recovers. Structural deficit result from mismatch between long-term government spending commitment and revenue. The structural deficit require policy changes to address as they persist even in the time of economic growth. Primary deficit exclude interest payment on existing debt. It focus solely on government operational budget, excluding the cost of servicing debt. Government response: to address the budget deficit, government may implement policies such as tax increases. Yeah, they usually do that like that. Spending cost cut or combination of both. Policymaker must weigh the economic or political consequences of deficit reduction measures. Political consideration: budget deficit can be a political issue which with depth with the depth is over appropriate role of government, tax policy and social program. Political parties often have approaches to managing deficit, with some advocating the austerity measure and other favoring deficit spending to stimulate the economy. Sustainability: the sustainability of the budget deficit depends on the country's ability to service its debt in maintaining economic stability. High and persistent deficit can raise concern about the country's fiscal health, potentially leading to credit rating downgrades and reduce access to credit markets. International comparison: budget deficits are often compared across countries to assess their relative fiscal position and economic stability. Different countries have varying level of tolerance or deficit depending on their economic and political circumstances. We have covered all the different point around the budget deficit, like causes, effect, type of budget deficit, like cyclic deficit, structural deficit, primary deficit. Cyclic is all about the revenue decreases and spending on social net increase, and government is too much on social net increase. That is one of the factor. Government responses: to address budget deficit, government implement policies as tax increase. Oh, okay, these are some other point we have discussed, like policymaker with high economic, all this stuff. Political consideration: budget deficit are also become a political issue when depth not depth, it's a debate over appropriate role of government, tax policy and social program. We have covered out that. Then we have covered our political parties and often approaches managing deficit, with some advocating sustainability and international comparison. Now I am correct to the next slide, or it's the last slide of this presentation. That's about the question regarding the budget deficit. We are going to cover that. What are the key difference between cyclic deficit and structural deficit? Why it's important to policymaker to distinguish between the two when addressing budgetary issues. A cyclic deficit is tied to economic fluctuation and disappear as economic recovers, while a structural deficit is a long-term mismatch between government revenue and expenditure. Policymakers need to distinguish between them to determine whether the deficit reduction measure should be short-term or focus on addressing fundamental fiscal imbalances. How can a government finance a budget deficit? What are the implications of issuing debt of the cover deficit? A government can finance a deficit by borrowing through an issue of government books. They can lead to increase in national debt, which requires interest payment. The implications include potential crowding out effect on private investment and need to service the debt through future taxation. Discuss the concept of primary deficit and explain why it is useful for policymakers to analyze separately from the overall budget deficit. A primary deficit include interest payment or existing debt or focus solely on government operation budget. Analyze this separately help policymakers to assess whether government operate as self-sustaining or require additional borrowing or cover current expenses. What are the relationship between budget deficit and monetary? How does the central bank respond to the persistent deficit? Large deficit can put upward pressure on inflation, prompting central bank to raise interest rate to control. Central bank may adjust monetary policy to what? To counteract inflationary pressure resulting from fiscal deficit. Okay, explain the term crowding out in the context of the budget deficit. How does an excessive government borrowing potentially crowd out private sector investment, and what are economic consequences? Crowding out occurs when the increased government borrowing reduces the fund available for private investment. This can lead to higher interest and lower private sector borrowing and potentially slower economic growth if private investment is constrained. What strategies can government employ to reduce budget deficit? Discuss the advantage and disadvantage of the measure like tax increases and spending cut. To reduce deficit, government can implement policy like tax increase, spending cut. Combination of both. Tax increases can boost revenue, what may affect economic growth, while spending cut can reduce deficit, what may impact essential public services and social program. How do credit rating agencies access the credit worthiness of a country. How can persistent budget deficit affect a nation credit rating? Credit rating is an agency evaluate country ability to service or depth. So persistent deficit can raise concern about the country fiscal health, potentially leading credit rating downgrade, lower credit rate, or resulting in high borrowing of the government. Discuss the possible political consideration surrounding budget deficit. What are the we can make interested? I think 15 minutes hasn't passed in this video. Is it so? Is it so? Yeah, we have covered almost all the question. Yeah, we have got almost all the cover. We'll see you next time. Till then, keep hustling.